What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here, and in this video I'm going to be showing off one of my favorite builds in the entire game. It's a build for Stasis Titan, and it centers around the exotic helmet Cadmus Ridge Lancecap. It has the exotic perk Lancer's Vigil. Thrown diamond lances create stasis crystals, with more created by hitting bosses and vehicles. While a stasis super is equipped, rapid precision hits and precision final blows from behind a rally barricade will create a diamond lance near you. So this exotic may not sound amazing on paper, but believe me when I say it's incredibly strong. Way back in the day when this helmet came out, an extremely cracked player named Armin GT was soloing GMs with this helmet, and this is back when GMs were much more difficult. And then my buddy Timelord also used it to great effect to solo the GM Cosmodrome. Much of the footage in this video is from Timelord's run. Neither of these guys upload videos very much anymore, but they are both awesome Destiny players. Anyways, this exotic is set to shine this season thanks to the artifact. And the Stasis subclass has also got some rework since those guys were using the funny cap to crush Grandmasters. In fact, the fragment Whisper of Chains has now been changed and it is no longer as good as it used to be. Now, it just has a chance to create a stasis shard when you get a kill with frost armor, but back in the day it would give 40% damage resistance when you were standing near stasis crystals. So this used to be a staple on the build, but now we won't even run it. So let's look at what we are running. Out the gate, of course, we have Rally Barricade because that is how we make our Diamond Lances with this exotic, and then we have Glacier Grenades because this build is all about exploding stasis crystals. And for even more crystal generation, we have Howl of the Storm. In harder content, Shiver Strike is pretty useless, but Howl of the Storm allows us to slide and use our melee charge to make stasis crystals. We can then destroy these crystals to make stasis shards, which feed back into our melee energy. Every small shard gives us 10% melee energy, and when we destroy our Glacier Grenade crystals, the same thing happens where we make a bunch of shards. And because we are making so many shards, the other aspect we want to run is Tectonic Harvest. This will make it so that when we pick up stasis shards, we get stacks of frost armor. So we used to get damage reduction with Whisper of Chains, but now we do it through Tectonic Harvest and collecting stasis shards. And having frost armor gives us many benefits from the seasonal artifact, as we'll get to. And you may have noticed that we're not running the Diamond Lance aspect. That is because you don't need to. The exotic allows us to generate Diamond Lances without needing to run the aspect. Because we are shattering so many crystals, we run Whisper of Shards to reduce our grenade cooldown by a whopping 500% when we shatter a stasis crystal. This just allows us to get more Glacier Grenades to shatter more crystals and keep the chain going. And when we shatter these crystals, we'll do even more damage thanks to the next fragment, Whisper of Fissures. This increases the damage and size of the burst of stasis when we destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. This one is crucial since everything in this build makes crystals. And speaking of increasing our shatter effect, the Hail the Storm mod on the artifact will also increase our shatter damage when it's boosted by a potion, and the base effect will release shards that damage and slow enemies. So those two are must runs in my opinion. So these other fragments are optional, but I definitely like to run them. First up is Whisper of Conduction. This gives us plus 10 to resilience and plus 10 to intellect, and it makes stasis shards track to our position, making them easier for us to pick up and give us frost armor and melee energy. And again, thanks to the artifact, we also get class ability energy when we grab these shards if we run Served Cold. Whisper of Refraction gives class ability energy when you defeat frozen targets, but thanks to this artifact mod, we don't need that. Not to mention, our Rally Barricade cooldown is really quick anyways because we run 100 resilience. Outside of that, just spec into Discipline next, and then probably Recovery or really whatever you want. So I like Whisper of Conduction, but you could also run Whisper of Bonds to make Orbs of Power for defeating frozen targets. This is up to you. There's a 10-second cooldown on this one, but you will be defeating frozen targets constantly with this build, so you can definitely make a lot of orbs with this one. I don't care much about orbs with this build, so the last mod that I like to run is Whisper of Rending. This makes you deal more damage with primary ammo weapons on frozen enemies and stasis crystals. This is crucial for destroying crystals quickly, so I highly recommend it. This build's playstyle is to sit back and plink away on targets, so you will mostly be using weapons at range to destroy crystals, hence why this fragment is so good. But if you did want to play more aggressively, then you may also want to consider Cryoclasm for destroying the crystals. But with how I play this build, I wouldn't get much use out of it. Because we are playing from afar, I can't recommend Revision 0 enough with this build. It is one of the hardest hitting exotic primaries in the entire game, and its sniper mode hits like a truck. And thanks to Whisper of Rending, if you freeze the target first, then you will deal 50% more damage with the sniper shot. It's some crazy awesome synergy to say the least. There's also an arc pulse rifle called Vantage Point with a perk called Jolting Feedback. Basically, it will apply Jolt after dealing sustained damage. This would pair perfectly with this build. You could sit behind your barricade, lay into a champion to proc this perk to apply Jolt. Meanwhile, you make a Diamond Lance from Cadmus Ridge Lancecap. You throw the Diamond Lance, everything is getting jolted, and it makes a big boom from destroying the crystals. The ad clear potential is insane, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Plus, Unstoppable Pulse Rifle is on the artifact next season, making this even better. Then you could run something like Wither Horde in the kinetic slot for damage over time, and to take advantage of Overload Breach Grenade Launcher and Concussive Reload. I also want to mention that Fighting Lion is getting a buff to apply Volatile, and Fighting Lion also works with Whisper of Rending, so because of that, I'm going to assume the new exotic Stasis Grenade Launcher Alethanum, which also uses primary ammo, will also work with Whisper of Rending. For secondary weapons, Rocket Sidearm still goes super hard. Indebted Kindness with Volt Shot is great in an activity like Onslaught because Jolt is so powerful. Yes, these got a reserve nerf, but they are still incredibly strong. And arc weapons have synergy with Trace Evidence on the artifact, where rapid precision hits or rapid final blows on targets affected by Jolt or Blind will generate Ionic Traces. And the potion boosted version will give you armor charge from the Ionic Trace. And then Retinal Burn can consume an armor charge and blind an enemy, and the boosted version will emit a blinding burst. So yeah, keep an eye on arc weapons this season. And then in the heavy slot, literally run whatever you like. As for armor mods, this is a build that is completely up to you. I like using Siphon mods on my helmet to match my weapons because this is such a weapon-based playstyle. On the gloves, you could go with loader mods if you want, but again, anything you want really. Things like bolstering detonation are great because you get so many grenades, and then this will feed back into lowering your barricade cooldown. On the chest, just resist mods for survivability. Just match them to whatever content you're playing. On the legs, scavenger mods are great, as well as maybe recuperation for some health recovery when you pick up an orb, or distribution to further reduce your ability cooldowns. Or you could just go with weapon surge mods to match your loadout. And on the class item, powerful attraction and bomber are good. Time dilation too if you want to run surge mods. Again, this is a weapon based build, so surge mods could be strong here. I already talked about a few good artifact mods, but you can round out the rest of the artifact mods with basically any that complement having frost armor. I know this build plays at a distance a lot, but you will be advancing forward as you take out all the enemies, so you'll definitely be picking up lots of shards to give you frost armor. And there are lots of mods that give us benefits for that. If you want to run stasis weapons, then Wind Chill will give you frost armor just for dealing precision damage with stasis weapons, and one with the frost also pairs nicely here. Another weapon that is sure to shine with this build is Wicked Implement, and it will pair perfectly with some of these mods. Armor of Aramis will let you emit a freezing burst when you are critically wounded with frost armor, and Brain Freeze will cause frozen combatants to become surrounded by a chilling fog which slows combatants that aren't already. This will be extremely powerful to pair with this build since the build freezes everything constantly. This is a build that is sort of counter to how I usually play. I typically like very aggressive in-your-face builds, but this build allows you to play safely from afar while dealing big damage thanks to all the crystal explosions. And if you do need to go into the fray for whatever reason, Stasis Shards will give you frost armor to help keep you alive. The super on this subclass is one of the best in the entire game. It has tremendous ad clear thanks to the sheer number of crystals it makes, and its single target damage is some of the highest in the game. The Diamond Lances can freeze Brigs mid-air and sort of stun lock them, which makes them basically ineffective. There are so many subtleties to this build, and the more you play with it, the more you will learn about them as time goes on. And as you master it, you will quickly realize why it is a favorite off-meta pick for a lot of endgame players who like to solo GMs. But it also doesn't have to be one-dimensional. It has great area denial and chaotic activities like Onslaught, and one other thing I didn't mention is you can use the Glacier Grenades defensively as well, to either block off a lane in Onslaught or keep an enemy from damaging you while you deal with other things. Like I said, there's a lot of intricacies to this build, so give it a try and start mastering this fun and unique playstyle. If you're still here, then thanks so much for watching to the end, it means a lot. Do me a solid and hit like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more awesome build videos like this one. Have you used Cadmus Ridge Lancecap before, and if so, were you a fan? I hope this video helps reach the masses to show off its incredible utility and effectiveness. Anyways, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed and learned something, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Take care.